Hey everyone, and welcome back to What's the Plan, the podcast where we dive into the matters of our careers in the architecture and urban planning field. I'm Haley.
And I'm Andrea. So Haley, what's the plan this week?
This week's plan is all about preparing to plan.
Yeah, so this episode 32, is a continuation of last week's episode 31, all about preparing for masters, specifically a Masters of Architecture.
And in that last episode, we established the fact that earning a master's in architecture is not always necessary. Now, as for planning, a master's degree is also not required to become a registered professional planner or RPP.
If you're interested in learning all about the architecture pathway or applying for a Masters of Architecture, please give the episode a listen.
So before we get into this episode, as always, we'll be talking about the education and credentials needed to pursue a planning career in Canada, and specifically in Ontario.
Okay, so it's like similar to architecture, you have different requirements from not only from country to country, but also province to province.
Precisely.
Okay, good to know. So that being said, can you start off with getting into the education? That being said, can you start by getting to the education someone would need to pursue a planning career?
Yeah, so similarly to what we've discussed about architecture in our previous episode, someone who is pursuing a career in planning does not necessarily need a master's in planning. This is because in Ontario, there are 2 university programs that offer accredited bachelor's degrees.
Okay, interesting. So what are these 2 bachelor's degrees?
In Ontario, the 2 accredited undergraduate programs are the Bachelor of Urban and Regional Planning offered by the Toronto Metropolitan University, formerly known as Ryerson, and the Bachelor of Environmental Studies, Honours Planning, and Honours Co-op Planning offered by the University of Waterloo, which is what I have.
Oh, so there's only 2 universities in Ontario?
Yeah. For their undergraduate programs.
For undergrad, okay. So what could someone who didn't earn their undergraduate degree in these 2 programs do to start their planning pathway?
Well, luckily there are a total of 6 universities across the province of Ontario that offer accredited postgraduate programs in planning. And these include Queen's University School of Urban and Regional Planning, York University Faculty of Environmental and Urban Change, University of Waterloo School of Planning, University of Toronto's Department of Geography and Planning, the Toronto Metropolitan University's School of Urban and Regional Planning, and finally the University of Guelph's Rural Planning Program in the School of Environmental Design and Rural Development.
Wow, so what is up with all these names? They're so long.
They're so long. Honestly, it wasn't until I was prepared for this episode that I realized the full name of each of the programs or the schools that offer these programs. So that was kind of news to me too.
Wow, okay. So there's quite a few postgraduate options for schooling versus the undergrad option. That's good to know.
Yeah, it's definitely nice to know that there's more options for postgrad, because I personally know a whole bunch of people who didn't even learn about planning as an option until they've already started or even finished their undergraduate studies.
Yeah, I only knew about planning because I was looking to architecture, and then they're like, something you might be interested if you don't get into architecture. But yeah, I can't imagine people who didn't even learn about it in high school missing out on an opportunity like this. So after schooling, what's the next step?
So after someone's graduated with an accredited degree and is working in a responsible planning role, they are eligible to apply to the PSB or the Professional Standards Board to begin the certification process for a candidate membership with the Ontario Professional Planning Institute, or OPPI.
I see. Okay, so the actual certification process to become a professional planner comes after school is complete?
Yes. For those who choose to go through the accredited degree pathway, the process starts after schooling is complete.
Okay, so that sounds like there's more than one pathway.
Good catch. So there are actually 2 other pathways for someone who wants to become a professional planner in Ontario.
So 3 pathways in total?
Exactly, 3 pathways. So the first alternative is the Prior Learning Assessment and Recognition, or PLAR routes.
Okay.
So I'm saying all of these acronyms because I will be referencing them afterwards. Okay. So, just keep them in your head.
Yeah, no, there's a lot. I'm just, trying to remember which one is which.
A lot. But the PLAR route is an alternative route which is available for those who hold any academic degree that isn't an accredited planning program.
Okay.
The requirements for someone to go through this route is that they must be employed in a planning position. They must hold a 4-year undergraduate program that isn't in planning. Isn't from a accredited planning program. They must have achieved and demonstrated the equivalent of at least a cumulative 5 years of responsible professional planning experience gained through employment in planning. So not just volunteer work, it has to be actual employment.
Like paid.
Yeah. And they must have successfully completed the PLAR process, which includes documenting and demonstrating that they have actually worked a minimum of 5 years in a responsible professional planning role, and successfully providing a list of post-secondary and other qualifications, and completing a self-assessment form.
Okay, so why would someone choose to go through the accredited program route over the PLAR route?
So similarly to someone who chooses to do a master's in architecture rather than working to gain their experience, the biggest difference is that in addition to doing a minimum of 4 years of schooling, someone going through the PLAR route would have to prove that they've gone through an additional 5 years of relevant work experience. So essentially, it's also a longer process.
I see.
The final pathway to become an RPP in Ontario is through the reciprocal/advanced standing membership route, which is meant for planners who hold a professional membership in and are fully certified by a foreign professional planning organization.
Okay. So this is for someone who's a practicing planner outside of Ontario or even Canada who wants to become an RPP in Ontario.
Yes, but only those planners who hold professional memberships with the American Institute of Certified Planners and the Planning Institute of Australia.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so unfortunately, if a planner holds a membership outside of Canada, the US, or Australia, they would have to go through the PLAR route.
Wow. So it's like if you got your certification in the UK, it's like you got to redo everything?
Yeah. I'm not entirely sure if your work experience from the UK would count towards your 5 years if you choose to go through the PLAR route.
Yeah.
But I would certainly hope so, because that would take a long time.
Yeah. So it looks like we've covered all the pathways. I guess now it's time to go over the actual certification process.
Yeah. But since I'm still on the very early stages of my own certification process, bear with me. We're all going to be learning about this together.
Okay. Well, that's what we're here for.
Yes. So, okay, now that we've covered how the process begins, I'm going to talk about the process as if I'm going through it.
Okay.
So join me for the ride.
Okay.
So to begin, the remainder of the process will span over the course of a few years, and on average it should take about 3 years. And within these 3 years, there's a total of 5 steps to go through. The first is obtaining a candidate membership with the OPPI, and so that is how you officially begin your process of certification. What it means to obtain a candidate membership is just to prove that you are on track to start with the pathways that I've previously mentioned. So the second step is that once I've become a candidate member, I need to go through the mentorship process, which will last a minimum of 1 year, and it's designed to help with my professional growth and development. And along with a mentor who will work closely with me and help me develop the skills I need to become a professional planner, I'll also have to find a sponsor who will kind of act as a supervisor and oversee my work and progress.
Okay, so can these mentors and supervisors be people that you are currently working with?
So the mentor can be someone that you work closely with in a work environment. Okay. However, your sponsor needs to act as a neutral party. Okay. So that can be someone within your same organization, but it cannot be someone who is your direct supervisor or has direct control or authority over your work. Okay. The third step towards this process is logging my work experience, and this is where the sponsor plays a larger role, as their responsibility is to monitor me during the stage and ensure that all of the work that I'm logging is correct. The second last step is to complete an ethics and professionalism course and test, which is important because we all know how critical it is for planners to put the public opinions first. Yeah. And the final step in achieving my RPP designation is to pass the professional examination, which I'm not excited for.
Ooh. Is it just one singular test, or is there like multi-parts to this exam?
So from what I hear, there's only one test. Okay. Which is, it's a good thing. Yeah. I can't imagine having to do more than one. Yeah. But I also hear that there is a maximum of time, you can take it a maximum of 3 times before you have to start the process all over again. Oh, okay. So if you fail it 3 times, then you're out. Yeah. Which, it scares me to know that there's a limit of amount of times I fail. Not that I foresee myself failing, hopefully.
The hope is not to.
Yeah, but like the fact that there is that limit really stresses me out even more.
Yeah, they have the same requirement as all for architecture. It's like you can only do it 3 times. Oh. But I'm not sure if it's like you're allowed to do it multiple times in the future if you restart your whole process. I feel like for architecture it might just be 3 times and that's it. Oh no. But yeah, I have not looked into that either yet. But other than that, it sounds like it's quite the process, but it's like pretty straightforward.
Yeah, it definitely seems that way, but of course we'll keep you guys updated.
And I guess our listeners will just have to continue listening to find out what the process is actually like through your perspective, right?
Exactly. Yeah. So becoming a registered professional planner in Ontario was the plan for now. Listen to our next episode to continue figuring it out with us.
Thanks for following along to this episode. If you liked it, please give us a like, review, and subscribe for more. Until then, follow us on Instagram at What's the Plan Podcast for what the next plan is.